And with the video, I didn't actually plan on doing a video this soon, but I felt the need to actually want to, I guess, crank out another video here because again, we have a situation that I think that we really need to talk about. We are just actually coming off of the cusps of Juneteenth, and basically, as you know, Juneteenth is a relatively new holiday that recently came on the books within the last couple of years or what have you, to celebrate the pride of actually being black and, just celebrating the fact that, we're free, sovereign individuals, that we were no longer bound under the, spirit of slavery, both mentally and physically. But it's really a shame when you actually have people that actually still want to keep you bound and want to still see you as being less deserving. You know what I mean? And basically, we're living in a world where, there's just some things that some people just don't want to let go of. And one of the main things, again, is that, slavery was one of those things that really, when you go back and really study it, it covered a very long time as far as American history, to the fact that it actually became the subject of American history, where we actually had to go back and, when I was in school, we had to go back. We never really went into the depths of it, but it was just briefly mentioned, because again, whenever you talk about slavery in and of itself, it was never a good thing. It was more of a way for us to be of service to the white man as opposed to being of service to ourselves. And basically, again, the only thing that slavery ever taught us is the fact that we would never rise as people, or we would never amount to anything. And the best that we can do is be under a white man's foot. I really hate the fact that, sometimes people want to take you back to that time frame, where where they want you to kind of go back as if you're reliving that all over again, even though we're living in a free and sovereign America, so to speak, in this day and time. But when you actually have ignorance coming from the top, or I would say the White House, where you have a reckless president that actually runs their mouth and say such vicious things, it kind of makes you think, will racism ever go away? As I was growing up, and maturing, as we would say, going through school, and just going through life, as you will. Again, and I mentioned this in previous videos, my parents actually, would sit down and talk to me, and my other siblings about, the times when they endured, I guess, uncomfortable treatment, all because of the color of their skin. It never really got physical per se, even though it could have. And then again, my grandmother, of course, indicated times when, she endured racism where it did get physical, to the point where it cost her, the death of her dad. You know what I mean? So basically, even to this day, she really does not hold white folks in high regards. And like I say, even though it would be easy to understand where she's coming from, we still sit down and have talks sometime ever so often about, the need to forgive. Because again, if we can't forgive, then the Lord, our God, can't forgive us. That's my belief. But aside from all of that, there's just some things, again, that I really wish that could just be buried and just done away with. And I know that in a perfect world, slavery, racism, and everything like that, this is a part of American history. And again, it's not going away. Now, it's funny and actually downright shameful when we have someone that is in office that does not know how to talk. They don't know what to say out of their mouth. They just want to say something. And basically what I've learned, especially from this president, is that it's best not to react. One thing about it, again, is that I look at this particular leader, or I would say this particular person in the White House, as a bully. And a lot of people may not see it that way, and that's fine. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. But the thing about it, for those that knows and can think and knows how bullies operate, a bully will do and say anything just to get a reaction. And the thing about it, again, is that when you really pull the covers back and really get to the core, the only thing that the bully has is his mouth or his reputation. Because, again, when it comes time to get physical or whatever else, they don't have any way of defending themselves. The only way that they would defend themselves is by going to get somebody else to fight for them. Because, again, the only thing that the bully has is his reputation and his words, as if that's supposed to be used to intimidate people. But what I always advocate, especially in this day and time, is that we as black folks still remember how significant we are. Despite how others perceive us, we still have to know that we are who we are and that we have it going on. We always have had it going on. It's just that the society wants to paint all these other pictures to make us think that we are not as good or not as bad. We're not, you know what I mean? They just want us to make it seem as if we are not who we say we are, or that we don't have it going on, even though we do know that we do have it going on. Because if that wasn't the case, we would not have all of these other societies, all these other cultures wanting to imitate us in every part of our culture. It's funny that when a bully actually sees the potential in you, they're going to do everything they can through words, through actions, and everything else to get you to think that, hey, you know what? Maybe he's right. Maybe I'm not worth anything. Maybe they have a point. Maybe I'll never accomplish this, that, and the other. Maybe I am this. Maybe I am that. And see, one thing about it, again, is that the Bible says whatsoever a man thinketh, so is he. So when you begin to believe the words of somebody who is already reckless and really that is very dogmatic, narcissistic, hateful, and you begin to take on their words and you begin to accept it in your spirit, you'll begin to really to bow down to everything that's being said. But see, the part about it, again, is that we have to, again, understand and know that because of what we've been through, that's what makes us so unique. It's something that it's a fight. We are actually fighting every day. Even in this day and time, 2025, we're still fighting to be relevant. Real talk. We're still fighting for acceptance. We're still fighting to be recognized. We're just still fighting to be equal. And we've been doing this for I don't know how many years, even again, going back to the times of slavery. And the thing about it is that when you think about it, all this time, the only thing that that America has taught us about the black culture is the fact that we always had to fight. At no point, really, if you really think about it, did we actually have a state where we were just peaceful and that we were just accepted. Anytime that, we get to a point of actually being recognized, relevant, or beginning to, come into our own, or beginning to get the recognition that we deserve, other people get threatened. To the point where they go and do or say just stupid, heinous things. And the reason why they're only doing that, again, is to get a reaction. But when we run across those type of people, I often, my mind actually goes back again to those times of enslavement. And see, the thing about it again is that, it's amazing that when you pick up a book and read, and not really go by what somebody says, but really pick up a book and read to become educated on something, you'll begin to see, again, of the lot of things that black folks went through, and the whole purpose of us actually being brought over here in the Americas, if you will, was to be of service to someone else as opposed to really helping each other or helping ourselves. And basically, again, I hate that our culture, when you look at it as a whole, as far as our legacy and everything else, as far as the reason why we were here was to, again, be of service to people who really didn't care anything about us. Having to actually have our native tongue beat out of us, having to have our women's raped, having to sit up there and be publicly humiliated, shamed, sexualized, and all of these other type of things at the hand of people, because they already know that, again, if we were left to our own devices, we could accomplish a whole lot of stuff. And again, we're still fighting with that mentality of, and even in this day and time, of wanting to actually, again, be equal, wanting to sit down at the table and just talk to let others know that, hey, I'm not a threat to you. Why do you keep looking at me as a threat? Why do you have to be so mean? Why can't you treat me equal? And see, over time, as you become educated and as you begin to mature and really understand and see where society says that you belong, you begin to see and know that, hey, you know what? I don't belong there. This is where you want me to be, but this is not where I belong, according to you. Because again, I'm just as equal as any other white person, any other Asian person, any other Dominican, any other, whoever. It doesn't matter. I'm just as good. I'm just as capable. But again, we're still fighting again, and that's been our legacy. We've always been fighting for the chance, and for the hopefully for the moment that we are being seen as equal. You have the civil rights movements. You have, affirmative actions and all of these other type of things that was set in place for the most part to kind of help us to kind of be on the same level field as white folks. But again, through overt racism, racism swept under the carpet and stuff like this, we're still left, on the other side, the unacceptable side, the unfavorable side, where we have to sit there and still watch white folks come up from behind us and even surpass us, even when we putting out all of our best. But again, I thank God. I wouldn't change a thing. I would not change my race. I would not do any of that because I'm proud of who I am. And the thing about it again is that if I would never get any recognition from society or whatever, that's okay. Because again, I'm not looking for recognition. It's only as long as God knows that I put forth my best effort in everything and anything that I do. That's all that matters. It doesn't matter to me what somebody up in the White House has to say about me and my culture. The thing about it, God says that I have to trust him in everything. He says, acknowledge him and he'll direct my path. So that lets me know right there, if I put my total trust in it, it doesn't matter what a president in the White House got to say. He may sit up there and huff and puff and put his little threats out there. But the thing about it again is that if God says that it's not going to harm me, then guess what? It's not going to harm me. I have to look to the hills from which cometh my help. My help comes from the Lord. So the fact is that when you have someone putting out garbage and speaking reckless just to get a reaction, I already know what I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with a bully. And just like anything else, a bully will go away or will be less effective when you ignore them. So the thing about it again is that even though his words that was spoke on the cusp of Juneteenth about abolishing holidays was directed towards black folks, guess what? We black folks still know, we know what the deal is. And guess what? We're still going to laugh. And guess what? We're going to still keep living, keep smiling, keep barbecuing, keep eating good. Because again, we only have one life to live. And I refuse to sit and live in fear and fight every chance I get over somebody who just going to see me how they want to see me. Even though we have a president that we're going to have in the office to what? At least 2028. One thing about it again is that sometimes you have to just understand and just know certain things and just be okay with it. Yeah, even though a lot of people are upset that, he's the president, rightfully so. I cannot sit there and just keep dwelling on the fact that this man, this simple-minded man, is going to be actually making rules and regulations that's going to govern my household. But even in that, I still give my house, I still give my body, I still give my faith, I give my total being to God. Because again, if I sit there and dwell on what rules and what laws are coming in to hinder my quality of life, I will be in a bad shape. So those meaningless words, those thoughtless words, those unkind words that was actually used to make me feel bad about who I am, I take it and just, guess what? I let it roll off of my back like water when I take a shower. And I put it right where it belongs, under my feet. I refuse to let anyone steal my joy. It doesn't matter who you are. You cannot take away my dignity. I will not allow you. You can't take away my praise. You can't take away my accomplishments. You can't take away my struggles. You can't take away I will not allow you to take anything away from me that is beneficial to my personal growth. I can't allow it. So those words that was spoke about the insignificance of Juneteenth and the fact that it really needs to be abolished because it really doesn't mean anything lets me know, again, that we're dealing with someone who just doesn't have a clue. And someone who does not want to be educated, someone who does not want to understand. But like I say, I can go on and on with this, but I felt the need that, I wanted to kind of just talk about this for a moment because, again, out of all of the things that kind of touch me, this was one of those things. You don't sit up there and say that we don't deserve, if anything, we deserve way more than what society has given us. Way more. And slowly but surely we're getting ours. It may take some time, but we're getting it one by one. And just because you have someone that sit in the White House and say that, no, you don't deserve it, guess what? You may not want to give it to it, but guess what? God will open a door and make a way for me to get it. You all be blessed, folks. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.